Truth be told, there are lots of places you can invest your money in 2023. Dividend stocks, growth stocks, dividend ETFs, index ETFs, etc. And now it's December 2023, so it's that time again. It's time to find the best performing dividend ETF of 2023. And again, the results were surprising. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Average Joe Investor channel. In today's video, we are looking at the top 12 dividend ETFs based on assets under management. And of course, I created a spreadsheet outlining all of the results, both with respect to dividend income, as well as portfolio balance and total returns. We will briefly outline each of the dividend ETFs. We'll take a look at the actual results and some of the graphed data. As a reminder, this spreadsheet, as well as every other spreadsheet I create, including the monthly dividend stock spreadsheet, including access to all of my portfolio trades and access to the Discord community, is available in the Patreon community. If you want to learn more, check out the link down in the description below. So here are the 12 dividend ETFs we took a look at. And again, I looked at assets under management to see which were the biggest ETFs. Doesn't mean that there might be smaller ETFs that might have outperformed, but we didn't want to go down a rabbit hole, so we kept it at 12. The 12 dividend ETFs we took a look at were VIG, the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Fund, Schwab's U.S. Dividend Equity ETF, SCHD, Vanguard's High Yield Dividend Index ETF, VYM. Then we've got DGRO, the iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF, SPDR S&P Dividend ETF, SDY, iShares Select Dividend ETF, DVY, Schwab's Fundamental U.S. Large Company Index ETF, never heard of that one before actually, FNDX, ProShares S&P 500 Dividend Aristocrats ETF, Noble, WisdomTree's U.S. Quality Dividend Growth Fund, DGRW, First Trust Value Line Dividend Index Fund, another one I hadn't heard of, FVD, iShares Core High Dividend ETF, HDV, First Trust's Rising Dividend Achievers ETF, RDVY, and then finally SPDR's Portfolio S&P 500 High Dividend ETF, SPYD. Currently, this list is sorted by assets under management. We also have the amount of holdings in each of the ETFs. And you'll notice here, if we sort by number of holdings, we have a big disparity here. The top one is FNDX, which has 731 holdings. And the smallest one here is RDVY with only 51 holdings. You also see a big disparity when it comes to the dividend yield. The top yielding ETF in this list is SPYD at 4.91% currently, and the lowest was DGRW at 1.84%. SPYD, HDV, both over 4% currently, DVY at 3.86%, SCHD at 3.62%, and then down here the lowest yields were DGRW, FNDX, and VIG, all below 2%. Let me just make you aware of the assumptions we're making. With all of these ETFs, we're assuming a $100,000 lump sum investment at the beginning of the period, which would be January 2023, and then no contributions throughout the year, reinvesting all dividends throughout the year, and then we'll look at the total dividend income, as well as the portfolio balance with those reinvested dividends, which essentially would match our total return. Now let's take a look at the results. Let's start with dividend income, based on the $100,000 initial investment. All right, so the top three dividend incomes. Number one was actually SCHD, which is fascinating, at $3,574.21. Second place was SPYD at $32.96. And then third place, HDV at $28.42. The three worst dividend income levels were NOBL Noble, $14.92, VIG at $15.18, and FVD at $16.48. What's interesting though is that, SCHD had a dividend yield of only 3.62% currently, yet had much more income than the 4.9 and the 4.07% yields of SPYD and HDV. Fascinating. Okay, next up, let's take a look at portfolio balance here. Sort of from top to bottom here, the very top result here, reinvesting all dividends in this portfolio balance starting with $100,000. Number one was DGRW at $115,000. Second place goes to RDVY at $114,596. Then third place, just over $114,004 for FNDX. And these total returns match those numbers since it's easy with $100,000, 15.48, 14.6, and 14% year to date. The three worst total return performances: DVY was the worst, lost nearly 2%. SPYD was second, losing 1.28%. SDY lost 0.93%, and even though HDV shows negative 0.01, it was essentially flat on the year. It lost $10 total out of $100,000. Now, one thing that's very interesting here is, let me go ahead and sort this again by dividend yield, largest to smallest. The top yields all lost money. SPYD, HDV, and DVY. All of them lost money, though again, HDV was essentially flat on the year. Whereas if you sort it based on the lowest dividend yields, they were all double-digit in total returns. Very interesting. Let's take a look at some of this data on a graph. Here's the portfolio balance for year-end reinvesting all dividends, of course. We've got each of these graphed, and you can see that, by far, even though these kind of moved with each other, the severity at which they moved was obviously different. The top results here in green, pink, and in red were, DGRW, then in RDVY in pink, and then in red, FNDX. You can see there was a significant drop here in this gray one here, which was SPYD. Near the end of the period, however, it did rally a little bit prior to today. Here is the total income for 2023 graphed based on the totals. We've got the top result here, SCHD compared to SPYD. Then HDV in third, and then fourth DVY, and then they're all kind of here packed right around $2,000, $1,500 right here. And then here's a look at dividend yield, graphed from lowest to highest on the current yield. And it just is very fascinating, again, to see the difference between the low yields and the high yields and perspective on the total returns. Which leads me to this next question here is, what do we do with this? How do we decide which of these ETFs to invest in? Well, I would say, let's start with the first question. Should you even invest in a dividend ETF? It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you don't need cash flow right now, then maybe a dividend ETF is not a good fit. For example, if we look back at this data here, 115,000, 114,000, 111,000, that's good growth numbers for the year. However, these are dividend yields at 1.8, 1.9, 1.9. You're not going to hold these types of ETFs long term, are you? Because if you're interested in that, you might as well just hold the S&P 500 ETF, SPY, which yields 1.5, 1.6% dividend yield, and is going to do better on a growth perspective than these ETFs. If you're thinking, hey, I'm going to own a dividend ETF, and I want to get as much cash flow as possible, then we should look here and sort by dividend yield, and then take a look at these ones here that didn't do that bad with respect to total returns. I mean, SPYD lost 1.2% for the year, and DVY lost 2%, but HDV doesn't look too bad here. Generated $2,800 and was essentially flat on the year. And then also SCHD, had the most dividend income and actually was positive on the year. These would be the ETFs you might want to look at if you want to hold a dividend ETF long term and actually collect cash flow. I'm not recommending any one of these in particular. It's just a lot of different factors you need to consider before choosing a dividend ETF to invest in. Hopefully you found some value in this video, guys. Make sure to leave your 2 cents down in the comments below. It's my goal to respond to as many comments as possible on the day I post a new video. And make sure and leave in the comments, let me know which of these you want to learn more about on a deeper dive. We can take some of these out and look at an individual basis and really take a look at the underlying factors and data. That's all I got for you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching.